What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cayman's Island podcast, where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, David Camman. Just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come and hang out with me on the island. If you love the San Francisco 49ers and honest football conversation, you've definitely come to the right place. I'd love it if you take an opportunity to like the video, subscribe to the channel. And we do have a lot to talk about today on the injury front. If you have spent any time at all on social media this past week, you would actually think that the San Francisco 49ers season is already completely over. Every time I got a notification from X, another injury, another player leaving practice, another report that somebody's on the sideline instead of participating. And that number kept growing. Okay, that number actually ballooned up to, at one time, I believe, 20 players. 20 players dealing with injuries, soreness, being limited in some capacity. Now, I want to start out today's episode by saying something that can really be difficult for people to hear because both things can be true at the same time. The 49ers had a rough start to camp from a health standpoint. That is absolutely true. But I also think the panic surrounding this football team is getting blown way out of proportion. And two things can exist together. The injuries are real, the concern is real, but the context absolutely matters. Not every injury is created equal. There's a huge difference between someone suffering a season-ending knee injury and a veteran getting some time off because the coaching staff is trying to protect their tight hammy in early August. Those are completely different conversations, and unfortunately, social media at times doesn't really make that distinction. So today, instead of simply reading through a list of names of injured players, I'd really like to look at this from a position group standpoint because I think that's where the context matters, and that's where the real story begins. Let's take a look at a position group like the secondary. Now, this is probably an example of why I think folks are overreacting just a bit. Yes, we've had some players miss practice. Guys have been limited. But when I look at this secondary, I'm not really concerned. I'm not really worried. Why? Because somebody is always getting valuable reps. Maybe a veteran corner is getting a maintenance day. Maybe a safety is dealing with some soreness, so they're being held out. That simply means that another young player is getting first-team reps against NFL wide receivers. That's exactly what training camp is supposed to accomplish. Depth isn't going to be built by sitting on the sideline and watching other guys. It's built by actually getting in there, putting the pads on, and getting those opportunities. It's a 17-game season. At some point throughout the season, you're going to need some of these backup guys to step in and probably take some valuable reps, maybe even in November. So that means those August reps become very valuable. That's why this position group doesn't bother me. Another position group that doesn't bother me is the offensive line. This is another area where I feel the story is better than people realize. Everybody's been watching this battle between Connor Colby and Robert Jones. Now, in the beginning, you hear that Connor Colby's doing great. It's actually his job to lose. And then all of a sudden, these pads get on and he starts to flounder a bit and gets into some old tendencies from last year. So right now, Robert Jones is getting reps with the first team guys. So you look at this and you got a real competition, and that's what you want to see during training camp. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. And while everyone focuses so much on who's unavailable, I keep looking at who is available. You still have big Trent Williams out there. Now, keep in mind, this is an example of don't be surprised if Trent misses a practice here or there. Trent's a veteran, man. There's not too many fresh nuances that he's going to pick up from training camp. This is a player that you want to handle very carefully. I don't like to use the term load management by any stretch, but with a guy that's been in the game so long, you have to be careful with Trent. Just him being out there, his presence alone is a big deal. There's not going to be a scenario where a headline reads, Trent has a maintenance day, and the whole world freaks out. And you have to understand that some of this stuff is precautionary. You think about the rest of the line. You've got Dominic Pooney continuing to develop. You've got Colton McKivitz, dare I say, being a stalwart over there at right tackle. Still got Jake Brendel. Now, he still is doing his thing, and Kyle believes that he's the mastermind of the offensive line, calling all these protections. So he's still there doing his thing. Then behind these guys, you've got guys that's getting reps, that's competing for depth, and getting some valuable work in every single day. One name that I want to mention is Carver Willis, because I believe that he is going to play a valuable role in the future. This man is currently in concussion protocol. Now, before anybody starts blaming the substation, I don't think the substation is causing concussions. If the substation is causing concussions, then we have a whole different topic of conversation that we need to talk about. But hopefully Carver gets well soon and gets out of that protocol. But that's an example of, man, it's football. Guys get banged up. That doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with how the team's practicing. Sometimes freak accidents just happen. The point is this: the offensive line has enough bodies to keep that competition moving. And honestly, these opportunities matter. Training camp isn't just about getting your starters ready. It's about developing that depth, because later down the road, you need to know who your 7th, 8th, 9th best linemen are. Because somewhere in this 17-game regular season, faithful, you're going to need these guys to step in. Folks get banged up. And I really like the fact that there's some true competition happening on this offensive line. There are players rotating in and out. But when I look at this room, I see depth. I see competition. Same thing goes for the secondary. I feel really good about that. All these valuable reps. Would I like every single player out there healthy? Absolutely. But if you're going to deal with a few bumps and bruises, training camp is where this stuff needs to go down. I'm not super overly concerned about the interior O-line. I'm not really worried about the interior D-line. Now, you never want to read where O.C. Odigizua is not out there practicing, man, but this is a position where we've got some guys. We've got a lot of depth out there. In fact, I think some of these groups might actually come out on the better for getting some of this extra experience. Now, before anybody tries to put me in the concussion protocol because I'm sitting up here acting like everything's great and fine, let me be very clear. There are some position groups that I'm very concerned about. Let's take a look at wide receiver. Now, the word I will use is very sad. I'm extremely sad about my man Ricky Pearsall having to have that season-ending PCL surgery. I really felt like it was going to be a breakout year for him. I even did a show about how I believe he could be the key factor that fully unlocked the offense. Unfortunately, in the offseason, I guess the front office doctors made the decision to try to let this thing heal on its own. He got out there in real practice situations. The knee flared up, and they had to shut him down. That hurts because I know that him and Brock were trying to develop some chemistry off-site before training camp even took place. And then you hear all the good news about Brock Purdy and the fact that this is Brock's best training camp. He's hitting guys on touchdown bombs that might not even make this team. So can you imagine what it would be like if he had a full arsenal of his weapons healthy out there? However, even though some of these guys are hurt, other guys are getting some valuable reps. You think about a guy like Deebo Samuel, who we legit just picked up off the street. Now, Deebo's a veteran dude. He knows his game. He knows his strength. He knows his weaknesses. But it doesn't hurt my feelings at all with Brock and Deebo getting some extra reps together. He wasn't there all of last year. I'm sure there are some things that they still remember, but Deebo's older. And so him getting some extra reps, developing some extra chemistry with Brock, that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. a guy like Jordan Watkins getting an opportunity to step up. I've heard he's done some good things. Then you got guys like Jacob Cowing that really concern me because at this point, and similar to Ricky's situation, if he cannot stay healthy, will he even make this team when all these guys get back and get healthy? Because the reality is this, outside of Ricky Pearsall, everyone that's injured right now should be back in time for the regular season. Should be just fine. Let's go ahead and face it, faithful. Nobody plays their starters really, or their veterans, or their important key cogs in the preseason. The preseason has really become a glorified exhibition of your backup players and folks just trying to make the roster. No one's going out there and starting any significant players, and if they do, it's really for a series or two. I don't expect any of these big-name veterans, a Christian McCaffrey. I doubt Brock even gets a snap in the preseason this year. I just don't see it, especially with the injuries that we've dealt with and what we went through last year. We're not going to take a chance on it. That's why, even though I'm concerned about the wide receiver room, a guy like Mike Evans doesn't bother me. Really doesn't. I know that Mike Evans has a slight strain in his hammy. This man wasn't probably going to take a snap in the preseason anyway. You want to bubble wrap a guy like that to ensure that they're ready full go for the regular season. It's not like Mike Evans is going to go out there and develop a new secret X factor to his game that he hasn't developed already. This is Mike Evans. And while I feel very terrible for a guy like Ricky Pearsall, man, you know his situation when he came into the league, getting shot, getting back out there as soon as he can. He showed flashes, and unfortunately, the PCL is tricky. It didn't heal like it was supposed to, and they had to shut him down. It was the next man up mentality last year, and look what the team did. 12-5 regular season, being able to outperform a team like Philly in their home stadium, that's a big deal. So while I miss Ricky, I know that Brock, a fully healthy Brock, can get out there and make some things happen. So while I am very sad about the current state of the wide receiver room in San Francisco, I think come the regular season, we're going to be just fine. The only real injury issue at present was the Ricky Pearsall one. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a step back. Now, I was watching a good friend of mine's channel today, Johnny Dell from the Johnny Dell Football Academy. Great show, man. Great channel. Dude is an X's and O's genius. Knows way more about film study than I ever will. I assure you. If you get an opportunity, please check out this man's channel. I did run a question by them today, though, in that, am I just crazy that I'm not super overly concerned about all these injuries right now, just because I know that a lot of them aren't anything where guys are going to miss any type of significant time? And Johnny brought up a really good point that I didn't think about, which goes right into my next position group, and that's the defensive end position. While we've got a lot of depth at interior, the edge portion of the D-line has been so banged up, man, that you got folks like Jaden Duggar taking snaps at D-end, which I know that they were going to work that in anyway, but guys like Kevin Givens taking snaps at defensive end, that's scary. And the point that Johnny brought up, man, was a good one in that if you have all these guys injured, okay, especially at the defensive end position, if you have all these guys injured, are you putting too much additional workload on the guys that are there? And I would say absolutely yes when it comes to a position like defensive end, man. There just isn't anybody out there. Now, at the same time, some of these guys are going to get healthier. They are going to come back. But I don't want anyone to fret about this whole Nick Bosa thing. Everybody's freaking out about Nick Bosa not being out there, this, that, and the other. The man's coming off of his third ACL surgery. I would wrap Nick Bosa literally in bubble wrap. I don't even know if I'd let him be present for the preseason games. It would be some freak injury where somebody hits the dude on the sideline while he's having a conversation with Osa or something. We cannot afford not to have a healthy Nick Bosa in Australia. We just can't. Another thing is, Faithful, we have to be realistic here. I've seen reports that even Myles Garrett has been held out of practice, okay, due to soreness. You look at a team like the Seattle Seahawks, who are going through several injuries like at running back, guys on the physically unable to perform list. You've got guys on their team right now in the secondary that's missing time. Big time key cogs to their Super Bowl run. This is not just a 49ers issue, guys. It is an entire NFC West and an entire NFL issue. Guys get nicked up, guys get banged up, guys are held out, guys get extra maintenance days that are veterans. And let's keep it a buck right now, as the kids would say. The 49ers have an old team. They really do have an older team. So with an older team, you can't just run these guys out here ragged day in and day out. Some of these unks out here are going to get some extra maintenance days and get some extra time off. And as far as some of these guys, every precaution, every measure is being taken so that come week 1, we've got most of our entire team intact and ready to go. I'm telling you, Faithful, it's not as bad as it seems. Everybody just needs to take a deep breath. Look, I don't like reading. I don't like going on X and seeing that there's 20 injured players, especially with the PTSD that we have from what we experienced last year. By no stretch am I saying everything's perfect, but I would just say let's put some context on this thing. It's not like we're reading every single day that somebody has an ACL tear. It's not like we're reading somebody's having a season-ending pec surgery or something like that. There's a lot of nicks. There's a lot of bruises. And because of that, there's a lot of caution being thrown at the wind, if that makes sense. But I'd love to hear from you. Which injury concerns you the most? Do you think the 49ers are being too cautious? Or are they handling training camp exactly the way we should? Do you think people are overreacting to the injury report? Do you believe that I'm being too optimistic? I'm usually a glass half empty type of guy. And I'm not going to start freaking out because somebody has a bump or a bruise. I don't even know what an abductor injury is. I know that's something to do with the groin. But is that groin injury saying this player has a torn groin and will not return till mid-season? I'm not seeing any of those reports, so I'm not going to freak out just yet until I start hearing reports such as those. Just remember what this team was able to do last year in the face of way more serious injuries than anything at all that's being reported at present. Faithful, that's today's show. Again, appreciate you guys watching. Remember to like and subscribe. If you get an opportunity to, man, pull out your phone, show someone the channel. It absolutely helps us out for sure. Thanks again for your time. Take care. Be blessed. And go Niners.